I'm getting ready to sew the strap together. So the first thing I need to do always is to check to make sure my machine is threaded correctly. Needle up, press your foot up, pull off to the left, then check the front and the back to make sure that they look the same. And this is a little bit different lining up area than what we have been used to. So let's take a little bit closer look at the foot. So right here in the center is a little groove, and that's the groove that we're going to use for this edge stitching on the strap. We're not going to use the outside of the foot. We're not going to use the inside of the foot. It's this little groove that's in the middle of the foot that we're going to use. And because we are in stitch position number 1, we're going to be about 1/8 of an inch or a little bit more from the edge of the fabric. And I want you to start on the open end. All right, so one of the long open end, and get that underneath there. You need to be, you can start about 1/2 of an inch in. I'm actually going to back stitch here at the beginning, but I want to start in from the end because I don't want to back stitch right on the end. Take my pins out as I go. Make sure my needle is down and I have it set up the way that I want to. Hold on to your threads always when you first get started. So a couple of stitches forward, and then I'm going to go back about 4 stitches, and then I'm going to move forward. And because this is kind of a hard thing to watch, I'm going to go slower when I am stitching this. I'm actually going to speed up a little bit just so it's a little faster for you all to watch. But I want you to go slow because it's really important that this be accurate. This is going to show on the outside. Don't forget to stop and take your pins out and make sure those 2 edges are stacked right on top of each other as you are sewing along. One of these days I'm going to figure out how to do high-speed sewing with my video camera, and then you won't have to watch me sew the whole thing. I actually am only going to sew down one side and then catch up with you in a bit. Again, I want to make sure that these things are sitting right on top of each other, because if one's farther over than the other one, then you're not catching both of them. That's going to be a problem. Your strap's going to come undone. And the only way you can keep your strap from coming undone would be to take it out and stitch it again. So I'm using my fingers to kind of hold these together as I go, even though I'm taking my pins out. Because I do have to take my pins out, I can't stitch over them. Again, I'm watching that center part of my foot as I stitch, and I'm using my fingers to hold the pieces together once I take the pin out. But if you notice, I always keep my finger away from where the needle is whenever the machine is going. I also always take my foot completely off whenever I stop to remove pins or adjust the fabric. That is a safety thing. So I'm almost down here to the end. And I need to hold those 2 corners together because I don't want them to separate. And I want to stitch almost to the end, but I have to stop and pivot. And perfect pivot. All right, now I'm going to turn the corner here and I'm going to stitch down the other long side, and I will catch up with you when we get to that point. So I am almost to the other end, and I'm going to stitch down and turn the corner and then back stitch. So here we go. And go slow when you get to the corner so you don't overshoot them. But you do need to be at least, I'm going to do one more. Because if you're not close enough to the edge, then you could maybe not catch those little edges, and then you're going to have a problem. I'm also holding these threads out of the way. I can either hold them out of the way, or I can go ahead and take my snips and cut these off now, because I don't want them to interfere with my stitching at the end. So I'm going to stitch across the end of this, and I'm going to back stitch about 4 stitches or so, and then needle up, press your foot up, and pull off to the left. And don't forget, even if you cut the threads with the thread cutter on the side of the machine, you always need to go back in and cut those loose things, because otherwise you get a big nasty mess. All right, so I have stitched down both sides of the strap, and it should be about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. And now I need to do the exact same thing to the other one. After stitching both of your straps, make sure that you take them to the ironing board and just give them a little bit of a press. Make sure everything's nice and flat. And don't forget to do it to both of them. Now we can just set them aside until we are ready to put them on the bag. If I were you, I might just take one pin and pin them together so they don't get lost from one another.